Monica Panaigove, and I'm the co-founder of We Ignite Life to Greatness Nigeria initiative. The nonprofit focuses on promoting and advocating for human rights. With Project AmplifyHER, we are trying to share stories of women and girls who are breaking barriers in their various fields. This will serve as inspiration to other girls and women that they could do it. Because traditionally you would hear careers of being a doctor, a medical doctor, a banker, but we're trying to showcase that people in different fields, being in photography, ICT, spoken words, poetry, giving young people the platform or the avenues to have other options of their careers and just showcasing that. And basically just show girls that no matter what career they do, they can thrive. They don't need to necessarily limit themselves to the professionals back in the days that our parents explored. You can be a photographer and be an amazing photographer at that and make amazing money as well. Just to showcase that anything that you do is what is as a girl. Every career is for a girl. You don't need to limit yourself to one particular type of career.
My name is Pelemo Ava Nyajo. I was born in Abuja here. I am from Benue State. And what I would like to be known for when I die, eventually, because we all will die, is love. And for me, love manifests itself in different forms. And that is through altruism, through being yourself, through poetry like I do, through art. And yeah, what else would I like to know about me? I love cake and I like food a lot. Speak to that. Okay, so this is like the story of my life. When I was young, I was a multidisciplinary artist, but obviously you wouldn't call it that at a young age because I was exploring different things at that age. So I used to dance, I used to draw, I used to write. Like as early as I could write, I started writing because I wanted to tell stories and I had so many things to say. And I grew up with a disability, basically. I had a deformity called bow legs, so my legs were literally like completely bow. And I didn't really have a lot of people who would want to interact with me. So poetry for me was a major outlet, especially when I started having my surgery. So poetry for me was a form of self-expression and it was just a means to show myself to the world, even though I was someone that was discriminated against. So I didn't know what spoken word was until 2020, which is very hilarious because a lot of people don't believe me, but I didn't know what spoken word was. But I learned about spoken word through an organization called WiLG Project Foundation. It has become my home, sort of. And when I started my spoken word career, because now it's a career and not just a hobby and an outlet to express myself. When I started, a lot was demanded from me to speak about causes, social justice issues, like subconsciously, because I worked with a lot of NGOs. So obviously you'd have to tilt your work towards like their own perspective. And so it kind of took out my major themes, which were like love and heartbreak and disability and pain, depression, and all of these things. So I started writing much about gender equality and other things. But my work, basically, my spoken word and my poetry, I think the most important thing for me is being authentic to myself, because the more real you are, I think the more real you are, the more you're able to find the people who your message is for. And I feel like every artist comes with their own message and your message has its own audience. So yeah, I want my art to speak to the people who are like me, people who it is meant for. So currently I work with an organization called Plan International Nigeria. I'm their shadow country director. I don't think I introduced myself well in the beginning, but anyways, I work with Plan International Nigeria, and what we do is mostly promoting girls and children's rights across like the world, because it's an international organization. And so on that platform, on that level, I've been able to use my art to speak on several platforms I've been doing. And apart from that, I've, like I said, worked in the civic space with a lot of organizations to help them to see that your work doesn't only have to be limited, but you can use creativity to express in different forms. So I've used my art to help amplify different causes in different organizations. And apart from that, I think poetry to me is just a way of being. It's a lifestyle. It's a, like, you know how you have like DNA? Yeah, I think it's a strand in your DNA. And so if you say poet, you know a poet. And it's not only about the words. I think it's the way you act, the way you behave, the way you speak, the way you just get lost in the world. And so I think everybody has a sliver of poetry in them. And so I try to do that in my everyday life and in my normal conversations with people. So it's not limited to the stage. And I think that's the most important thing. It's not limited to the stages in my everyday interaction. Growing up, my mom, I wanted to be so many things like all children. I wanted to be a dancer. And I was discouraged because of, first of all, my deformity and the bow legs. Oh God, my bow legs are really bad, you guys. And my mom was like, dancing is not a profession. Look for something else to do. And when I was small, everybody thought, oh, she's going to be a doctor. I don't know if it's because of my health condition or otherwise, but everybody thought I was going to be a doctor. And somehow that was imprinted in my mind. And so when my mom didn't accept the dance, I was like, okay, you know what, maybe we could go for writing instead. And I told my mom I want to be a writer, and she was like, hey, you can do that, but you can do it on the side. That's not a real job. That's not a profession, you know. And on many levels, it started to affect how I saw myself and how I saw art in itself, especially writing. Because growing up in this generation, Gen Z, a lot of people say, who still reads books? You know, and there was this time when I was really young, and I used to go to this cyber cafe a lot to do my assignments, and the guy knew that I used to write. Like, I literally used to write on books, and I had like books I used to write in. And he was like, oh, you write? Okay, I'm going to give you my copy, not the entire copy, but you could come and he told me I could come and like write my stories, type them down and print and do everything I wanted to do. And I had that opportunity. And there was this other time I was at another cyber cafe, and this lady was like, oh, she helps upcoming writers and all of that. But because of the way society viewed poetry and writing, society think, nah, I don't, even if I'm going to use art, I do not want to use the writing form because nobody is going to look at my work, so it's just for me. And so I just kind of shunned that part of myself. But finding Street Project Foundation was what changed everything for me, because I saw other young people doing what they loved in different art forms. And so I realized that art could actually be a sustainable means of living and for income. And that completely changed the trajectory of my art, and that's why I'm here today, I think. Gender equality to me is like giving everybody a field. Everybody has the chance to play on the field. Everybody has a leveled field to play on, the same field to play on. Gender equity is then saying, okay, according to your needs, okay, you need these kinds of boots because of this thing on your leg. This is how you will play better. So we'll give you this equipment, we'll give this to you, so that everybody can like be the best version of themselves on that field. So everybody has a field, and then everybody is giving what they need according to their needs and their priorities. And then inclusion is making sure that everybody can access the field, right? And not just in words, not just saying, okay, everybody can come to play and then there's discrimination on the field. No, but making sure it's a safe space for everybody to actually play and being conscious about how everybody plays. So there's something I always say as a person with disability. I always say that inclusion wouldn't exist if exclusion didn't already exist. So the only reason why we even need the term inclusion is because exclusion does exist. So having inclusion is basically just like bridge that barrier and like create a bridge for that gap. And then equality. And I don't know, some people say equality is not necessary, it's equity we need. Some people say it's equality and it's not equity. But I think they are both very important, because if everybody doesn't get the opportunity to have a field, then how are we going to give them according to their needs? So I think equality helps equity helps inclusion, and they are all interlinked. I work in the civic space. I work with, okay, currently I am a youth advisory committee member with the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I am a poet. I do a lot of things. So when you say the highest point in my career, I'm like, wow, what career? Because like a lot of Nigerians, let me say, a lot of Nigerians, they hustle in so many fields that they don't have like one field. So the highest point in my career has to be the lowest point in my career, quote unquote lowest. I think it's the opportunity I have to just be my most authentic self. And like I said earlier, I think working so much with my art and making my art a career and working so much in the civic space, I feel like that's taking out a part of me that is very abstract, a part of me that is very real, because I always feel like I have to adapt myself for whatever audience I'm going to. So whenever I'm going to perform for someone or I'm giving a stage or an opportunity, I feel like I need to be somebody for them. I need to shift and become something for them. But when I just started, it wasn't really like that. I was just a young girl trying to find my way in the world and just spilling my soul innocently, like a little child running in a field. You don't really care. You're just doing, and somehow I think for me, that was the times where I've had the opportunity to bear myself nakedly, completely, not really nakedly, literally, I'm a poet. But the times I've had to bear myself truly and authentically all those times have been the realest times in my career. The small stages, the open mics, just dreaming about projects with my friends. Yeah, and I think that's what I'm trying to come back into this year, because I have a lot of time right now. So yeah, I'm trying to work on getting back into the most authentic version of myself. So that's the highest point in my career. Okay, so this is where I'll share a bit of my story. I grew up with a single mom, or I'm growing up with a single mom. And at the age of 12, I told you my bullets were really bad, right? So at the age of 12, it was way worse. There were times where I had to start calling because I could not walk, literally. So I would call at home and then save the energy to walk in school, because I didn't want to be ashamed and embarrassed in school. But it was really difficult to move my legs. So at the age of 12, my mom struggled, and finally we were able to have my first surgery. And I thought it's just be like magic. In a few months, I'm up and walking. Everybody thought so. And I would just be like, my biggest aspiration was to be like every other girl. I wanted to have normal legs. I wanted to be a normal child. I wanted to play games and dance normally. And I loved sports as well. I wanted to play basketball and do things with my friends. But after the age of 12, after that first surgery, I had about 7 more surgeries. I turned 20 and I learned that this chronic illness is going to be there forever. And that's a tough thing to learn as a 20-year-old girl whose major aspiration was being like the other girls, just hoping for normal legs for 8 years. So that was a very challenging time. I was diagnosed with something called fibrous dysplasia, because I went from so many different diagnoses. They'll tell me I have rickets, I have this one, I have that one. They give me magic pills and holy water to drink, spray on my legs, and I would be healed. I even had a miracle where in church, I literally ran. I ran. I prayed and I ran. And I dropped my crutches for 5 months, but it only got worse. And yeah, after that, after I got worse, I was forced to face the reality of all of this. And I think that kind of changed the way I viewed life as an artist, as a development worker, as someone that works with the government, because a lot of times you're discriminated against because of your body. There was a time I was qualified for an opportunity in a certain country, and I was supposed to go, but I couldn't because of my health challenges. They literally said they could not take me because of that. And I think it's because they were not well equipped for it, maybe, or they thought they were not well equipped, because I literally gave them the doctor's notes, and my doctor approved that I was okay to go for it, but I don't think they were fine with that. So yeah, my biggest challenge has been this disability. As much as I would like to act like, oh, I'm powerful girl and these things don't affect me, they do. It affects my mind on every level. When I wake up, it's hard to walk to the bathroom, it's hard to walk. Did I mention there's a time I used to use adult diapers? And I used to be so ashamed of it, but I'm not anymore. And I think when these challenges come, it's just finding a way to creatively adapt, just finding a way to like change your worldview and adapt to those things, and not only adapt but make the world a more inclusive space. And so what I do every day is I try to promote inclusion by just simply showing up at places, at events. I go to events because I need you to see people like me. If you don't see people like me, you're not going to think of inclusion, because there are a lot of people who are not necessarily bad people, but obviously they don't make their spaces inclusive because they don't see enough people with disabilities. So to people with disabilities, this is me saying show up. That's the first step towards inclusion. So I would let me just be so honest. I am lost. I have no idea what I'm doing. Yeah, people look at me every day and like, oh my god, you're so strong, you're doing so great. And like, I'm being interviewed right now. And I'm like, why? Because I don't really see what people see, because honestly I am so blank, I'm so lost. I have no idea what exactly my purpose is. But I do think I'm on the right path. So I would say do it scared. Do it. Like literally just do it. Take these steps. Something I realized from praying recently, I'm not going to make this a religious or spiritual class, don't worry. But something I realized recently is I was praying to God about what I wanted to do for the year, and I was so confused because I honestly don't know what I'm doing. And I just heard, God told me that He gave me an instruction. Did I follow that instruction that He gave me? And the answer was no, like I did not. So I realized that, okay, if you don't follow those instructions, if you don't take those steps, how are you going to know what comes next? How are you going to know what lies beyond? Do you get? So I do think, like I said, showing up, just taking the steps, knowing that your dreams are valid. Don't ever lose your child. Don't ever lose your inner child. Not your child. I don't know if you have kids, but don't ever lose your inner child, because there's something about children. There's something about preserving your inner child that just keeps purity and purpose. I really do believe in that, because there are so many visions I had when I was younger about who I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to be doing that still guide me up until this day. Like I look back, like even when I get lost in this whole poetry thing or in civic space, I look back, why did I even start in this first place? Why did I start in the first place? And I remember what little me was dreaming. I remember what I saw. I remember what drove me to become this person. And I would say, remember your why. Whenever you're lost, remember your why. Nobody really knows what they're doing. Nobody really knows what this earth is. Don't try so hard to impress people. Do it authentically. Be your most authentic self and show up. And trust me, that's the you that people connect with most in the world. And I think that's what I'm doing right now, and I feel so free. So thank you so much for this interview. Like I love this place. I love the safety to just be who I am right now. And I honestly hope that this is to other stakeholders here. We should create enabling environments for girls, because I know that there are so many male-dominated spaces. You should create enabling environments for girls to feel safe and to thrive. And I'm not saying just organize a workshop for girls about knowing your self-worth. Those things don't always work. Make it more practical. Ask questions. Don't assume. Yeah, so that's it. and I do everything from a place of love, always. So I hope this helps.